All right, let's dive in. Today, we're heading out to Southern California's high desert, and we're going to decode the real estate market in Hesperia. We're going to get past the headlines, unpack the real numbers, the trends, and some huge changes on the horizon to figure out what is really going on out there. So, what is the real story with Hesperia? Is it a boom? Is it a bust? Or, is it something else entirely? Something a little more complicated and honestly, a lot more interesting. Hesperia is just this perfect little snapshot of the wider housing market right now. And yeah, we're going to break it all down. Okay, so to really get where we are now, you got to look back at where we've just been. I mean, think about it. Just a couple of years ago, it was an absolute frenzy, right? Bidding wars were just standard practice, and homes were flying off the market in less than 30 days. It was nuts. But today, totally different world. We're in a much more balanced market. Negotiation is actually a thing again, and houses are sitting for a more normal, say, 55 days. And that shift from total chaos to something more balanced, that's the real story here. All right, let's get right into the nuts and bolts of the market today. We're going to look at the key numbers from fall 2025 that really paint the picture of what's happening in Hesperia right now. Okay, so when you first look at these numbers, they almost seem to contradict each other, right? You've got the median price up over 5% year over year, and then look at this. Homes sold jumped by a huge 26.7%. But at the same time, homes are taking longer to sell. So what does that tell us? It tells us demand is definitely still strong, but that crazy gotta buy it no matter what feeling, yeah, that has definitely cooled off. Let's zoom in on that median sale price for a second. $475,000. Now, that's a really solid 5.6% jump from last year. But here's the kicker. The reason this number is so important. It's still way more affordable than the Californian median, which is creeping up towards $900,000. That affordability gap? It's pretty much the engine driving this entire market. And that engine, that affordability, is what's directly fueling this number, a nearly 27% jump in the number of homes sold compared to last year. So the big takeaway here is that even with higher interest rates in the mix, buyer demand in Hesperia isn't just hanging on, it is absolutely thriving. And here's what that 27% jump actually looks like. I mean, we're not talking about a tiny little statistical blip here. This is a big, clear, visual sign of that strong demand we were just talking about. It's proof positive that buyers are making an active choice to move to Hesperia. Okay, so we've seen the what. Prices are up, sales are way up, but the pace has slowed down a bit. Now, let's dig into the why. What's really going on behind the scenes? What forces are shaping this market? So we're starting to see inventory creep up just a little bit, and that's a really key part of this new balance we're seeing. And look, it's not happening because the market's crashing or anything. It's actually a pretty healthy mix of things. You've got more sellers feeling confident enough to list their homes, properties are taking just a little bit longer to sell, and we're seeing a trickle of new construction. And for buyers, well, this is great news. It just means more choices and a little more room to negotiate. This is probably the perfect way to describe Hesperia right now. Somewhat competitive. That Redfin score of 55 out of 100, it basically means the market isn't dead, but it's not on fire either. It's kind of just right. So what's the bottom line? A really nice house, priced correctly, is still going to sell fast. It might even get a couple of offers. But those days where every single house started an insane bidding war, yeah, those days are over. And get this, if you're looking for any signs of real trouble, widespread distress in this market, good luck finding it. As of late, 2025, you know how many active foreclosure listings there were in the whole city? One. Just one. That tells you everything you need to know about how healthy the foundation of this market is. Most homeowners are sitting on a ton of equity. All right, so that's a snapshot of today. Now, let's look ahead. What does the forecast for 2026 look like? Where are things headed? And what are the experts predicting for next year? Well, the path forward looks like a pretty clear chain reaction. It all starts here. Experts are predicting that mortgage rates are going to soften a bit, maybe dipping down toward the 6% range. When that happens, you're going to see buyers who've been waiting on the sidelines jump back in. And when more buyers enter the market, the natural result is a steady, modest rise in home prices. Think somewhere in that 3 to 5% range. Sustainable. And it's not just us saying this. This whole idea of a more balanced market is being echoed by the experts. The California Association of Realtors is saying they expect housing supply to keep improving, getting back to something that looks a lot more like pre-pandemic levels. And what does that mean for you? More options for buyers, which is what helps keep price growth nice and steady. It's all about things getting back to normal.
But when we talk about new supply coming to Hesperia, there is one number that completely changes the game, and that number is 15,000. Yeah, 15,000 new homes are planned for this absolutely massive new community called Silverwood. Let's put that into perspective for a second. This isn't just another new neighborhood. We're talking about building a whole new community the size of a small town. This is going to completely transform Hesperia's landscape, its economy, its entire character for decades to come. And you might be thinking, who's going to buy all those homes? Well, the demand is being fueled by some really powerful long-term trends. First, you've got this constant stream of people moving inland from super expensive places like LA. Second, remote and hybrid work is here to stay, which makes that drive until you qualify move a real option. And the big one on the horizon? A future high-speed rail station that's going to connect Hesperia to the rest of Southern California in a way we've never seen before.
Okay, so we've looked at the past, we've broken down the present, and we've peeked into the future. Let's wrap this all up. Let's boil it all down into one clear final takeaway. So here's the bottom line. What's happening in Hesperia is sustainable growth. This is not a bubble. The market has found its balance. It's a place where buyers actually have options and sellers are still getting a good return. That huge new construction we talked about, that's a total game changer for the city's future. And all of this, put together, makes Hesperia one of the key places to watch in all of Southern California real estate. Which really just leaves us with one final thought, one last question. When you take massive, massive new development, and you combine it with game-changing infrastructure like a high-speed train, and you put it all in a place that, for now, is still relatively affordable, well, you just have to ask yourself, is Hesperia Southern California's best-kept secret? Because it feels like that secret is starting to get out.